for two. Been up for far too long. Whoa, something's gotta go wrong. Oh, I can feel it in my skin like all the night sick. And I'm doing time, but it's fine. Oh, it's fine by me. I guess I had it coming when I threw away the key. But when whiskey come knocking at my door, you know, baby, I'm living no more. Oh, she don't live in no more. Knocking at my door, you know whiskey won't live here no more.
Welcome back, my night outers. That was Most Dangerous Men Alive, Women and Whiskey. They're on a little hiatus right now.
Two of my favorite things.
What, men being alive? They're on a little bit of a hiatus right now. They're looking, I believe, for another guitar player. But awesome live band. So this brings us to Crimson. Tell us a little bit. I mean, you were here a couple months back. You gave us the 500-foot brief overview of who you are.
If we call it that, the most brief annotation ever.
Yeah. So give us a little more detail. Now, first off, you're a announcer at Rhode Island Roller Derby.
Province Roller Derby, yes.
Providence Roller Derby.
And
how did that come about?
It was actually I was attending a few of the bouts. At the time I was dating a skater. They had Jetta Von Diesel. She's like, oh, you should come to roller derby bouts. I do. I'm like, okay. Came to a few, and that's where I met their announcer at the time, the Reverend Almighty, who you might know from the Zombie Night and a few other things, and you'll hear his voice on the radio often as well.
Yep.
And then he got talking with me. He's like, you should try announcing. I'm like, sure, I'll give it a shot, and again, it's like having that stage presence, being like in a band and also being in pro wrestling. It just kind of felt natural to me, but it was something where I could just be loud, but just take myself out of the attention, so no one had to look at me. So I can just like do my own thing, go through my notes, and I've had a great time. Since then, I've called bouts for teams from like Helsinki, from Australia. I've called bouts for like international roller derby girls, and they're everywhere.
And now you travel with this.
Yes.
It's not just stuck in Rhode Island.
Oh, yeah. You definitely travel around. They have a travel team, which is the Rhode Island Riveters, which is like their all-star team of Providence. And, they just compete around the U.S., and sometimes they have to go across the borders as well.
Cool. Now, you mentioned wrestling.
Yes.
How long have you been wrestling? Or do you not want to admit how long you've been doing stupid things in your life?
Well, like, if you take a look at my knees and the way I walk, which is a little wiggly, I would actually give it about roughly 15 years at this, But it's an on-off season. It's never 365 days. It's not like where WWE where they beat you like crazy and have you traveling. It's on again off season, and roller derbies help me kind of space that out. Where during off season, I'll come back, wrestle matches, and then transition to the next thing.
Right, beat yourself up and then go watch the ladies beat themselves up.
Oh yes, it's exciting every time I see one take out the other.
You got that sadism, masochism thing going on. As we all have at some point or other, Some of us, it's self-abuse with alcohol. Others, it's just self-abuse. He, unfortunately, has someone else abusing him.
Well, in the nature of wrestling, yes and no. That gets a little complicated. But I'm going to test my memory here. Your first wrestling persona, Vertebraker.
Oh no, that was
that
no,
you?
That was it wasn't me. I'm trying to remember who the heck that was.
I remember it was in that same general time when you were getting started, though.
Oh, it was a way long time ago. We had someone who actually used the Vertebraker as a finisher, but went by the name Vertebraker. And
right, there was an actual fellow using the name.
Yeah. No, I had.
Okay, that wasn't you because somebody told me back in the day that it was.
Oh no. I would like to take that kind of role, but
So, what was your first wrestling name?
Oh, that was Calypso, and I took that from Twisted Metal, absolutely, because it was just such a nice, like, strong name, but also a little bit of mystique to it.
Do you remember all your wrestling names?
Oh, there's Calypso, Chronic. Yep. And
the scary thing is that I remember all these wrestling names.
Yeah, and then Crimson just kind of rolled out of it from doing the band thing, and I was like, hey, I'll just like kind of network myself and other things and just keep the same stage name everywhere I go. So then that's why people come up to me at like Derby and go, I remember you as a wrestler, or they'll come and go, hey, I've seen you play at the Living Room once, and I was just like, well, we're dating ourselves now a little bit, but
Well, yeah. Well, that brings up another thing. Along with the wrestling, you were talking about networking. Mm-hmm. I am a networking whore. Everywhere I go, except for when I come to the office because they're already on the table, I always keep business cards on me. And I have been on vacation in other countries, on a cruise, handing out business cards saying, hey, you got to listen to my show. Hey, check us out or whatever. I mean, how far of an extreme is it for you? How far do you go to network?
Anywhere and everywhere. Whenever a conversation strikes up that I have something I can relate to, and I'll even reach out and go, wait, what do you do? What do you do in this? What are you involved with? And then we start connecting. And even when we're talking about the age of podcasts, it's even easier on the internet as well to start working with people like across the ocean, and to start working with them and their project. And then like maybe you guys combine a project together. But it pulls people into different realms. Like anyone who's seen me like in a band or wrestling has heard about, wait, you do this roller derby thing. I'm the announcer. No, if I ever got on skates with these girls, they'll break me in half. but that like
not in a good way.
No, not in a good way. But yeah, then I bring them to the show and they're like, wow, I never thought I would like this, But then again, they could start talking with some of the girls there and what they do like on side jobs, and next thing you know, they're working on projects together. Or, hey, I actually do T-shirt printing. Let me do some for yours. And that keeps the ball rolling, especially in New England where we're such tight-knit. It's actually surprising there's a lot of people that just don't actually network together, even though we're this close. And you can really build how, Providence used to be a big, big industrial world that it used to be, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Does the networking, though, now here's a problem I have let me think. I've left out the wrestling. I leave that to others. But,
although we were trying to get you in a manager's role at one point, we're going to put you in I think like a devilish suit.
Manager's role would be okay. Manager's role would be okay. But even just myself, I wear less hats than Crimson, and I find that the networking and the marketing and everything else takes away from my creative time to the point where I am impressed by somebody that can balance these two things.
Well, it's hard.
I mean,
yeah, that's the thing, that you need the balance.
Yes,
right, and that's one thing. I find it very hard to do so. Whenever I'm supposed to be out there promoting, it's damn. I wish I was right, and I wish I was doing this, that, and the other thing creatively.
Have you ever had one of those people that will interject what they do for a living at every conversation possible? You don't go to that extreme, but get pretty close to it. You're just talking to someone on the bus, or you're at doing your job, or whatever you're in Walmart, whatever it is.
Right. So when you're not doing your creative thing anyway.
Yeah, you're not. You may have something going on in the back of your head while you're going grocery shopping. You run across someone. Hey, you look familiar. Blah blah blah. You start a conversation. That's networking. I mean, you don't have to go to a networking night to network.
And I think the difference is between us and traditional networking, because I do go to a lot of networking nights, and you have your typical sleazy guy in a cheesy suit, but I think I speak for everybody in this room to say we're generally interested in what other people have going on, as opposed to someone trying to sell you a reverse mortgage at a networking night.
Well, usually because when we're in a marketing situation, we're surrounded by people who have the same interests in common.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Or at least partially.
Partially, right.
Like the one I like to bring up is the midday social, which I know is coming up in a little while. Anyways, Davey, hint, 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 if you're listening. Everyone there has a general focus on what they're doing, whether it's some part of music. But they also have other things going on as well. Like 13 Folds will come in. They're interested in the music, but it's a magazine. Sort of. Or an e-zine. Or they're supplying some of the cannabis. Or whatever the case may be.
Multitasking.
Yes.
Exactly.
See?
Or you have the cupcake lady coming in who's set up right next to 13 Folds magazine. You don't know who you're going to run across, and these people have alternate venues that they go to. That's how I ran across Jim Nellis. I was at Midday Social. I started talking to George Nasser, who was one of my co-hosts for the first 10 or 15 shows or whatever it was. And then, George would introduce me to other people. And all right, yeah, he's interested in music, but he runs Rhode Island Food Fights. Or this guy over here runs such and such a food truck. And the networking takes off from there.
Absolutely. And to get back to even your original question, I find energy cyclical, especially if it's something that you have a passion into or something that you find really you can connect with, where even as I'm networking and doing bouncing, like I got to balance my creative energy with, so like if I start promoting one thing or another, like, hey, we got this roller derby event coming up, blah blah blah, and someone's like firing energy back, getting kind of excited, I turn around and I feel more energetic and more enthused to like actually work on another project. Right. So sometimes I've like been out at the Scurvy Dog and talked a bunch of things with people, and then I come back and now I'm even more energetic. Instead of ready to go into bed, I'm ready to write a new song, or I'm ready to like work on a new chapter on my short stories.
One thing fuels another.
Exactly. You just got to keep it cyclical. You got to keep that energy going between one has to feed the other, and with that, sometimes I sit there and go, it's 3 a.m. I should be asleep now.
Okay, and stepping out of my devil's advocate role, in which I asked that question,
yep.
I will add now stepping back into my Goner persona. While you're doing all this, let me just tell my listeners, and we've all experienced this, stay away from the negatory people who try to sabotage each and every effort as you do this.
Avoid negativity at all costs, because
Yes,
that will just
exactly.
suck the life out of any project you're doing.
Yes.